Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful Boston, Massachusetts, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Sleep In Saturday. Yeah, if you're listening live on Facebook, we do this every day at 5 a.m., Monday through Friday at least. Saturday, Sunday, we do it live on Facebook as well. If you want to join us live for this study of the most sacred of all the Vedic literatures, and this is not this is not my subjective statement. This is Bhagavatam is considered the cream of the crop, the essence of all teachings of the yoga system. I ran out of breath. The yoga system, and we study it every morning. We study every morning at 5 a.m. What a way to start your day! Srimad Bhagavatam every day, and today is a special day. It's Q&A day where people write in their questions, and me and Kaustubha Prabhu, we try our best to field them using the Vedic sources, not our puny ideas, but Vedic sources. And this is the process of advancing in yoga. You use your intelligence. You don't blindly follow. If you have a teacher that just says, just believe, just trust, I'd start distrusting that teacher. You got to start to use your intelligence to discern and figure out, does this make sense? Before I put my next foot down on the path, does this make sense? How much of a leap of faith are you asking me to take? And the Vedic map is quite beautiful. It gives you reasonable ways to move forward. And you ask people who've also been doing it ahead of you. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? I'm trying this. It's helped me in so many ways. What do you think of this? So anyway, that's what we do on Q&A Day. You write your questions in, and you can also join us live on Zoom by writing Mara. So you got questions, here's the email address, or you want to join us live on Zoom and get the secret codes for Mara, you can do that. Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. Wisdom of the Sages 108@gmail.com. And Mara, our very, very sophisticated executive producer, she will take those, file them up, and put you on the list with your questions. And that's what we're going to do today. Picnic, Kaustubha. We're going on a Wisdom of the Sages picnic tomorrow.
Yeah, we are.
You excited for that?
I'm looking forward to it.
We're going to meet these people in person.
Yeah.
We've been seeing everybody through the Zoom goggles. Do you know what I mean by that? You see people on Zoom and then you meet them in life. They look nothing like Zoom. Is that crazy? It's really true.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, wow, I didn't know you were whatever, that, this, that, what.
You do know sometimes people put up different images instead of themselves like there. Maybe that's what's happening. Like someone's putting up.
Well, I do. I have a whole makeup team that does this thing over. You think I can just go out and look like this on a normal basis? Come on. I got to work on this thing for hours before I go out publicly.
Yeah, so that'll be in Central Park tomorrow. If you want to go to that, still you could write in, but you write to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. That just helps us know how many people are coming. But if you want to come, please, let us know soon.
There's no fee. You just come and bring yourself.
And then you'll get the details of the exact spot, which we're determining based on how many people are coming.
Yeah, we like to keep it secret too. That too.
Okay.
All right. I'm putting up. I can't hear you very well, so I'm going to put
can
up
hear
your
me?
mic. Yeah, it's okay. Don't speak louder. I'm just putting it up in my computer.
You know, another thing is I'll be at the Bhakti Center today for their soul talks beginning at 11, from 11 until 1. I'll be discussing spiritual strategies.
Kaustubha sounds exponentially smarter when I'm not interrupting him. So if you've never had the experience of solo Kaustubha, check him out at the Bhakti Center today. I'm in Boston right now, and I'm teaching all day today, a flight school class, and then the Vedic Path, which is like a 4-hour immersion in Vedic thought and Bhagavad Gita study.
Wow.
A bunch of you guys are coming. I see out there right now. Looking forward to it.
Boston people.
I'm in Boston all day, and then me and Bhakti Justin, who've been living in a truck, which has been sort of we're like taking sannyas. We're like sadhus, just wandering around. We're driving to the Bhakti Center. We're staying at the Bhakti Center tonight.
Nice.
Yeah. So after this, we woke up at 5 to drive here. We just got here, set this up, and now we're like heading back to after we finish class today at 7 p.m. We'll take a little bojan, and then we'll drive.
Nice. Drive safely.
Yeah. Well, we do. You know why? We sing. We sing a lot.
I don't know if those two equate with each other.
we sing prayers to Nisringa, Dave.
Okay.
Then we just lose our mind. Well, I have a question from you today. We're going to start off this the right way.
Yeah.
And that's with a question from our good friend Daniel Brigham, who lives down under. This is via email.
She lives in Brooklyn now.
Oh, she does.
Yeah.
She lives down under the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, Dumbo, right down
Dumbo.
under. Yeah.
That's down under.
It is.
There's a place, if you don't know that, in New York City, there's a place called down under the Manhattan Bridge,
Bridge.
And the acronym is Dumbo.
Yeah. All right.
When I lived in New York, it was just dumb to live down there, but now it's like the place to live, Dumbo.
Yes. I don't know if she lives in Dumbo, but in any case, she lives in Brooklyn.
Ready?
Yeah.
It's hard to put into words the depth of my gratitude for your daily podcast offerings, and for your association, IRL.
What does that mean?
I mean, in real life.
In real life. Okay. Gotcha.
I didn't know that. Who comes up with all these 3-letter things and never am I supposed to understand this all of a sudden?
I didn't have any idea what BFF was for like the longest time. What is BFF?
BFF. I didn't know laugh LMO.
LOL.
No,
what?
laugh my ass off. That one. I didn't know that one. I was like, Lamau. I first met Kaustubha Prabhu during my yoga teacher training at the Bhakti Center, and it wasn't long after that I met Raghunath Prabhu. In March 2019, I rather spontaneously bought a harmonium from him, and he mentioned, by the by, that he'd just started a daily Bhagavatam class. And at that point, it was day 3 of the Super Soul Sacred Sangha. Wow!
Danielle goes back. That's old school.
I didn't
right
realize she's that old school.
Day 3.
I remember delivering that harmonium to her, but it was a few more months and a devastating heartbreak. Thank God for those. Before I actually tuned in. I've been a dedicated listener ever since, and the shows have helped me navigate so many of life's heartbreaks, including the long illness and eventual death of my father last year. Oh, our heart extends to you and to him.
Heartbreak.
I'm forever indebted to Kaustubha Prabhu personally, who offered me guidance and love during the most difficult 24 hours of my life. There were the last 24 hours of my father's life, during which our whole family was gathered by his bedside in Sydney. Knowing that death was near and feeling terrified and helpless in the face of it, I WhatsApped Kaustubha Prabhu with some questions, and he graciously responded with answers and prayers. That's beautiful. Kaustubha, you're beautiful.
Come on, man.
No, you are.
Thank you.
I put my Tulsi beads on my dad's body and chanted as much as I could during those 24 hours, even though it was mostly silent chanting. It gave me something to focus on other than the agonizing sound of my dad's labored breath. I don't know how I would have gotten through that long night otherwise, or the weeks and months that followed. Kaustubha also organized a Shraddha ceremony at the Bhakti Center where the priest, Vasudev Prabhu, performed a sacred ritual in honor of my father's transition. They even organized someone to film it for me, all during the height of the pandemic. Thank you, Kaustubha, from the bottom of my heart. So we didn't even get to the question, but I think it's nice to give that, when people, a huge part of this practice is appreciation for devotees that have come into our life, changed the trajectory of our life, touched our hearts, helped us through transition. So beautiful to see Kaustubha's offering in that time, in that sacred time, and hearing her appreciate it it's just good to witness the whole thing from my vantage point.
From my vantage point, I did very little, but her heart is so soft and was so open at that time. She's felt it profoundly.
And I think the big lesson here, just before we even get farther, is everybody here, we're training ourselves to be solid in shaky times. And to give that, what Kaustubha gave, to give that to people, we need to be solid because people need us to hold their, to walk them through things. And this is what the great gift of the practice of bhakti is. You can be stable in a storm. And thank you for sharing that. Okay, now my favorite events about a week after his death.
I think you skipped a paragraph right there.
Oh, I'm sorry. As the anniversary of my father's death nears this Sunday, I write in with questions that are still plaguing me over the last year, and especially in the months that immediately followed his death. We've seen so many signs that my dad is still with us. Objects particular to him being moved around the house.
Raghunath's getting interested right now.
No, I hear this all the time.
Okay.
Framed photos, falling over without apparent cause, the smoke alarm being inexplicably triggered. It's all real, man. And the timely appearance of rainbows and exotic birds. I so believe this, by the way. I've never heard Vedic things about it, but I've heard so many people say things like this. Even the dog seems to sense him.
Just minutes before we got on here today, I was saying I was on a subway in Brooklyn the other day, and it was one of these elevated subways, so you're above the city and you're going along, and this dove started flying right next to the train, because we're both going at the same speed. It was flying right along, right next to me.
Next to the train, next to you.
Well, I mean, next to the train, but it was at about the same.
That was Jesus, man. I'm serious. That was Jesus following you.
My wife said that was not ordinary. That was a message or something. I don't know if it was Jesus, but it was pretty cool.
It could have been Jesus. Anyway, even the dog seems to sense him, staring and barking at particular points of focus, like an empty corner of the room. By the way, someone just told me this a day and a half ago. Mallory, a regular Zoomer, told me this same story of someone that died in Vrindavan when she was there, someone she loved. And they said I'd come back in a cow form.
Okay.
Just to say goodbye. And when the body died,
a cow
came out of nowhere up to the girl that died's sister. And the sister just burst into tears because she told the sister that. This is stuff surreal. My favorite event about the week after his death occurred when my mum, that's how they say it down under, my mum,
okay, thank you.
And I went to stay at a friend's beach house since I was little. She'd always said that when she died, she wanted to come back as a dolphin and that she would jump out of the water to let us know she's there. Since she loved dolphins more than anything, I silently prayed that we would see something during that trip, and I spent 4 long days scanning the surface of the ocean on the final evening around sunset. I lamented to my mom that I guess we're not going to see the dolphins come this time, and then threw out a challenge. Come on, Dad, can't you pull some strings and send us some dolphins? Literally, within 5 seconds of saying that, a pod of at least 10 dolphins emerged from the ocean, jumping out of the water and surfing the waves. That is a Krishna miracle, Mr. Kaustubha.
There's a pod. Is that what they call them when you got a bunch of dolphins?
A pod of dolphins?
A pod.
Okay. Colonel Wisdom! Jumping out of the water and surfing the waves.
No, it was absolutely... Okay, I'm sorry. Please continue. You got it.
It was an absolutely jaw-dropping moment, and we watched them frolic. I wonder if she said it out loud. Like, come on, Dad, show me a sign, or she said it internally. Because if she said it out loud, then her whole family must have freaked out.
Well, she says she threw out a final challenge, so it sounds like it was...
It could have been thrown out internally, though.
Yeah, possibly.
I later played back a video I'd recorded of the moment, and our dog could be heard barking in the background. Dogs know these things too. At the time, I felt that my dad must have been right there with us, but now I'm wondering if it was a Krishna miracle. Well, yeah, that is the Krishna miracle. Maybe it was both things at once. All of this brings me to my next questions. Firstly, if my dad is still with us and sending signs, what does that mean for his soul's transmigration? If he is in some in-between realm,
Is he in some
in-between realm? Lately, my mom has been hearing the floorboards of her house creaking in the middle of the night, and this feels like a sign, and
feels less like a
sign, and more like his soul might be disturbed. Okay. And I know we got people we can bring on for this question, real mystics. Secondly, if when his soul takes on a new body, will we no longer feel his presence? I truly believe in the eternality of the soul, and everyone says that the soul of the departed loved ones will always be with you. But how can his soul stay with us and simultaneously take on a new body? I'll tell you. I would love to hear any Vedic insights. Thank you so much, Daniel, for this very sincere question. This question lit me up. Kaustubha, what you got?
Maybe I should have given this question to you, Raghunath, because you're so... I think we would have had very different answers to it.
I want to hear your answer.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. And first of all, thank you, Danielle, so much for your kind words. And, you're one of our family. I hope Danielle can come to the picnic tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
I appreciate the way Danielle handled the whole thing. She was when all of her steady wisdom of the sages, Bhagavatam, listening. She when the pressure came and when life threw this really rough, curveball at her, she took shelter where she knew she could find something of substance, and it helped her through that. And now she's got these questions, and I'm going to be real honest here. It's like, I'm not a mystic, and I'm not familiar. Let me put it this way. My mood is to, in understanding what is real and what is truth, I kind of put things through like a filter and I shake it out, and I see what falls through. And what I'm filtering it through is these sacred texts, right? Like, if I can understand something in terms of these sacred texts, that's where I place my faith. I have too many years, and too many experiences that have led me to develop a strong faith in the Vedic literature. Now there come questions here that I don't have an answer to from that source. In other words, a picture fell over in your house, and it appears is that some kind of sign? That's not my realm. I don't fool around. I just have I'm the wrong guy to ask that question to. I know that there are skeptics that would say, yeah, people believe, and it's a fact. It is a fact that to a large degree, we believe what we want to believe, and we can begin to interpret anything as signs of something. So there's that dynamic, and that's a real thing. But I also don't deny that there's that metaphysical, supernatural realm that's also playing out here.
It's a could be for you. It's a could be.
It's a could be.
It's a could be. Why not?
It's a could be. Yeah, exactly. It's a could be for me, and I could try to play it off like I'm deeply spiritual, say, oh yes, this is this and this is that, but I don't know. So then I go to what do I do know? What do I know? And this is the way that I deal with it. Is I know that your father is composed of spiritual energy and that he's eternal. So I do not doubt for a second that your father is still alive and aware. But whether he's aware in your house right now and those creaking sounds are him, that I don't know, but part of that question, she was saying that some of these signs seem less like signs and more like his soul is disturbed. Is there something wrong? Is there some way that we can help him? Okay, well, what I know is that the Shraddha ceremony is the Vedic ceremony through which you help that person, right? And even the Shraddha ceremony, I believe it's done not even just once, but they do it on regular occasions. I don't know if they do that on that yearly date that the person departed or something like that, but
We can find out. We'll talk to you
yeah,
tomorrow.
we can talk to Vasudev about that too. So, but even beyond that, like what Srila Prabhupada did was he showed us how Srimad Bhagavatam boils things right down to the essence, right? The most important thing that you can do for the well-being of your loved ones, whether they're still embodied or whether they've left the body that was connected to your family, but they're continuing on. But the most important thing you can do, and Bhagavatam tells us this, that's why I have faith in it, right? I'm not hearing it from some medium or what was that? What Saturday Night Live thing? My name is Jennifer Caputo and I talk to the dead or something like that, right? Like, we're not hearing it from some, what was she, the Long Island?
I never saw that.
No, I showed it to you. I sat with you and showed it to you, Raghunath.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But this is coming from Bhagavatam. We hear that Sri Prahlad, boy saint, boy sage, right, who was tortured by his father, his father tried to kill him, but he felt no animosity, right? He only felt compassion for his father. So when all the devas, right, all these like exalted beings, high-level beings in the universe, when they had the vision of Lord Nrsingadev, the lion incarnation of Krishna, of Lord Vishnu, that came to kill Prahlad's father to protect him, the mood, the transcendental spiritual mood of anger was fully manifest in that form of Lord Vishnu, and all the devas were like, "Whoa, we can't talk to him." It was just too terrifying, ferocious, And they all looked at little Prahlad because they knew he came to save Prahlad. He has deep affection for Prahlad. No matter how angry he appears to be, we know that he loves Prahlad. That's why he's come. So Lord Brahma and the other devas, they're kind of like, we can't talk to him, but you can. And they kind of push him forward, They push little Prahlad forward. And Prahlad just begins to spill out wisdom. He's spilling out theological wisdom, practical wisdom. He's just, he's just like, it's just pouring out of him. And then that anger, that you want to talk about, like, picture the most angry and ferocious you've ever seen any human or any animal. And then multiply that. Multiply. Well, you watch those. What was?
Like humans, I got humans, and I'm trying to think ferocious animals.
Well, you got that Instagram thing that you're always doing. What is it? Life metal is the world.
Oh, nature is metal.
Nature is metal.
If you're not following that, follow that right now. Like, pause the show, start following Nature is Metal.
Okay, so it shows a lot of ferociousness in nature. But you take the most ferocious thing you've ever seen, you multiply that again and again and again, and that was Lord Nrsingadev. But through the prayers of fearless little Prahlad, right, he became pacified. So there's a chapter in Bhagavatam, Sri Prahlad pacifies the Lord with prayer, right? And then Lord Nrsingadev, he's so satisfied with Prahlad. I just love this boy so much. I want to give you something. Ask me for a boon. I'll grant it to you. Prahlad's like, I don't want anything. What do I need? All I want, if you're telling me to take a boon, I'm not a business person here. I don't do service to you to get something from you. That's not bhakti, right? I just love you. That's why I serve. He says, well, still, I want you to take a boon. Okay.
Take a boon.
How's this? That material desires never take root in my heart. That's the only thing I ever fear. Then I'll be separated from you. I want you to take something more. Okay, my father. That's where his mind went, right? My father. This person that was trying to kill him, he felt compassion for him. So he said, please, he prayed for the well-being of his father. And then Lord Nrsingadev assures him that for 21 generations of his birth, that his families have been liberated. Like they've been, their well-being has been well looked after. And then he says this verse. This is text 7:10:19. Whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well behaved and decorated with all the good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. All right? Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I'll read that again. And so, but before I read it again, I'll focus. So, like, again, I don't know if your father's sending you signs in your home. He may be, he may not be. But that doesn't mean, in either case, you can act in such a way where you bring about his well-being. How do you bring about his well-being? There may be different kind of mystics or pseudo-mystics that are going to give different formulas for the different things. I know Bhagavatam gives the formula of the Shraddha ceremony. And so I say, let's do that. And then, but then beyond that, to me, more important, right? More important is what we're reading right here. Again, whenever and wherever there are peaceful, equipoised devotees who are well-behaved and decorated with all good qualities, that place and the dynasties there, even if condemned, are purified. And so, yeah, so for me, what it really comes down to, Danielle, this is how I live my life. I say maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe, maybe not. But
Maybe, could be.
Could be. But in any case, I have to try to become that person who's peaceful and equipoised and decorated with all good qualities. And if I can do that, then I know I'm benefiting my father. I know I'm benefiting my mother. I know I'm benefiting, the whole dynasty. And so that's what we focus on. That's at some point in my life, maybe I'll understand more. Maybe even in this life, I'll be more attuned to the supernatural. But if I'm going to be honest right now, I'm not so attuned. So I don't know, but what I do know, that's going to become my priority, my focus. And then the second part of her question she said, how can his soul stay with us and simultaneously take on a new body? She's, I can understand the practicality of what she's trying to figure out. Like, is he here with us? And if he's here, then he's not somewhere else, like better in a new form. Is he like in some kind of ghostly thing, or what's going on here?
Sure.
And all of that. Honestly, well, this is what I know. I know that, and this goes back to what last Sunday when we were speaking with Chaitanya Charan. I can't look at the limitations that I have and you have, in this world, wherein, like, if I'm going to affect Raghunath, I need to be around him or to have some kind of channel. Like in the past, if we would have gone back a couple centuries and Raghunath and I were alive, if I wanted to communicate with him or affect his external circumstances, I would need to kind of be in his presence, or if I wasn't in his presence, maybe I would have to give a note to some guy on a horse that would ride to his wherever he was and deliver that message, and then through the channel of that message, he could be affected and communicated with. And then as the course of history progresses, then other channels begin. What they got, the telegraph, the wire, right, or things like this. And then eventually, there's the telephone, and now we got the cell phones, and different channels open up. What I should understand, that I can see and experience, even those things would have seemed very mystical or supernatural. Like the cell phone would have seemed like a supernatural thing to someone centuries ago, right? You can't do that. You can't just talk into this little piece of glass and someone else hears it somewhere else. That's like
supernatural.
That's some kind of
That's George Jetson stuff.
Yeah,
right.
It's a fact. When we were
kids,
Star
Trek.
Two things that
a flip phone was just like Star Trek.
Being able to see someone that you're talking to on the phone, we thought that doesn't exist, and that'll right. But in the Jetsons and stuff like that, you could see the person on the phone. We were right. When we were kids, it was we'll never see.
I wonder if we were watching the Jetsons now, we'd be like,
they're not doing anything.
Deal.
Well,
big
it's
deal.
true.
Yeah, robots, right? Like those vacuum cleaners are like little robots that they got those now.
Yeah, but we don't have spaceships that were flying around all around.
No, we're working on that.
Yeah, and I guess for Star Trek, we're working on the teleportation kind of device.
Are we?
But I don't know. I imagine someone probably is, but we haven't gotten it yet.
Okay.
But my point is that what seems impossible with our limited scale of perception is not necessarily impossible. So telephone would have seemed impossible, a few hundred years ago, but now we see that's not. And the ability of another being that's disembodied or no longer in the body that you knew them in and doesn't seem to be physically present to be aware of you. Why should I accept that limitation exists? right? Like my
Yeah.
awareness spreads throughout my body, and then whatever comes into contact with my body, I can be aware of. Why should it be, and that's my limitations right now. If my eardrums burst, then I would become still more limited. If I became blind, I'd be still more limited, but my awareness is at a certain point of expansion right now. But why should I accept that there's nobody with further expansion of awareness or ability to communicate with another, which just reminded me of the dedication of the Srimad Bhagavatam. When Srila Prabhupada dedicates the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you just flip to the first dedication page in the Bhagavatam, he writes, to Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, my spiritual master. So he dedicates this to his guru. He says, on the 26th annual ceremony of his disappearance day. And then he shares this little quote. And it's a beautiful quote. And it's something you can kind of treasure and live by and kind of deepen in your heart as life goes on. He says, he lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. Right? And the follower lives with him.
That's beautiful.
So,
By the way,
yeah,
disappearance means your funeral.
Yes,
The day you
passing away.
died, they call it a disappearance day.
Yeah.
You're new to that.
So again, he wrote, he lives forever by his divine instructions. So for Srila Prabhupada, or for a disciple, we have the instructions of these great souls, and that's as real as their physical presence, in its ability to transform us and affect us and guide us and help us. But for all we know, the spiritual master, the guru's awareness is spread further than ours is spread, and can still be aware and conscious of where we're at and how we're thinking and what we're dealing with, and can be providing help and inspiration in different ways. I have that I also don't doubt, So I can't give you a mystical answer. I can't answer you for sure what's going on in your home. But what I can say for sure is that if you dedicate your life to this path, if you become the yoga of being equipoised and peaceful under different circumstances, and if you, through your devotional service, you become decorated with all the good qualities, compassion, kindness, deep devotion, and selflessness, and service, and generosity, etc. Well, then we know that you're operating not only for your own well-being, but for the well-being of those that are close or dear to you. And so that's what I recommend, to take up that path. Okay. And I know you are, so I'm just sharing that.
Beautiful. I hope we see it. I hope we see her tomorrow.
I do too.
I think all those signs are real.
I know.
Here's my 2 cents, and I'm going to keep it super short. All those signs are real. And everything you're doing, Danielle, in your spiritual life is changing the destination for your father. Whatever his destination is, it's uplifting that destination. Okay. To the degree that we focus on our spiritual life, in the same way it affects our children, and like my mom will dance in the kirtan as old as she is, and it affects my children. That's obvious. But it transcends this time to people that have already left. You're a ripple effect going outward, and it's affecting him. So keep up the good work.
Okay. Now I have a question for you from our old friend who we haven't heard from in a while.
Harshal Gore.
Harshal Gore from the UK.
He was a regular question writer.
Well, he's been going through some stuff, so he writes about it here. He says, Haribol Prabhus, thank you for all you do every day. Apologies for my radio silence. I'm still listening to Wisdom of the Sages every day as an other. It's been a very challenging few months for me, with my mother leaving her body in May. Now, it's going to happen to all of us, right? Our dear ones will depart.
I also feel bad for the others who they have this other shame. Don't have other shame.
No,
We're okay if you're an other. They're like, I'm sorry. They have this long explanation. I'm going through this. And now I'm an other. We love others. Others are good. Mara, that's our takeaway today. Others are good.
Others are good. All right.
Okay.
So he says, it has been a very challenging few months for me with my mother leaving her body in May. Bhakti has helped me through these troubling times. So I have a question about expectation management. Okay. How can Bhakti help me manage expectations of others. And here we mean others just by it's broader sense, I think. I am constantly struggling with this. My mind is constantly throwing expectations to me. What I'm expecting from my wife, my kids, siblings, parents, staff, friends. The mind is telling me they don't do enough. When people don't meet my expectations, it drives emotions of anger, criticizing, and blaming. It's easy to say don't criticize, but really hard to put into practice. Also, how can I manage expectations of others on me?
Yeah.
This can be challenging too. I would really appreciate your thoughts.
Great question. We were just talking about this yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Harshal Gore, I'm sorry about your mother. My heart extends to you. Heart extends to your mother and extends to you who lost their mother. And your family. And there's no more other shaming here on Wisdom of the Sages. We love you, others. We were mentioning this thing about hearing the Bhagavatam every day. And at the end of the show, we're making these takeaways, these little nuggets, these little kernels of truth that you can hold with you. It acts like a life rope when we're sort of like drowning. I can grab onto a life rope. Little sayings, little sutras, little kernels that we can hold on to. And I use them because I'm always walking around town, smiling, and I fall in a ditch. I fall into a sinkhole, depending how big that ditch is. Or something great happens and I lose my intelligence when there's good fortune. So this is why we hear every day, because my default tends to go to bad places. I go to blaming, I go to criticizing, I go to being upset with them. Why are they on my case all the time? I go to the classics: resentment, anger, frustration, bitterness, lose my material intelligence, and try to medicate that pain with something that causes more pain. If you know what I'm talking about, say I. So when I read yours, of course, the two classic ones, which we say a lot on Wisdom of the Sages, is trade in your expectations for appreciations. I suffer tremendous amount of pain from expecting so much from people when expectations weigh heavier than my appreciations. And appreciation is such a very powerful thing for business, for relationships, for marriages, for relationship with children. And it's our biggest deficit in this world right now. We have deficits in many things. Appreciation is such a big game changer in relationally. So trade that in. If there's someone really irking you, really under your skin, really under your fingernails.
What do they say? Craw in your craw? Is there some phrase like that?
What? Craw?
Yeah, people say
bamboo under the fingernails. That's what I think of that.
Okay, all right.
Bamboo. Is there somebody really shoving bamboo under your fingernails? You got to write a list of 20 reasons why this person's wonderful. That is a great practice. Whoever's driving you crazy, write 20 reasons why they're wonderful. That starts to change things. Just like if I say, find something blue in this room, your whole vision starts to change. I didn't even notice that thing, So if I say, find something great in that person, it just shifts the consciousness, because your consciousness is like a ball rolling down a hill. And to shift it, you have to throw some barriers in the way. You block that ball and it goes somewhere else. So in that same way, shift your consciousness to appreciation and things radically change. When people start being overly concerned about my business, that's when I say, mind your own business. My business is, yeah, in the 12-step program, they call it what? They have this thing where you have to dig deep in your heart to take I love this word. The 12-step programs have such great quotable words. Take a moral inventory. It's such a beautiful way to put a moral inventory of yourself. And then sometimes if people start minding your business, they'll say, hey, stop taking my inventory. Because basically, and because the 12-step goes very hand in hand with the Bhakti path, the idea is that we keep the microscope on me instead of keeping the microscope on Kaustubha or Mara and all of her problems. Why isn't she looking? She's just like whipping up some batter in the kitchen, not paying any attention. Right? I keep the microscope on me, and I find my life will be so much smoother if I stop minding everybody else's business. What I always just say to people, if they get into my life too much, I say, thank you for your unsolicited advice, but we are not accepting unsolicited advice. I'll come back though when I want some advice from you. I like make a little joke about it. I don't accept unsolicited advice, but thank you so much for offering it. It's the worst thing you can do for changing people, if you really want to change them, is to give them advice, because most people don't like to hear advice. You got to get to a place where people ask for advice. And you can only do that by living with integrity. Then they want to know all your wisdom. What do you think about that?
But here's my question, though. So, in other words, what you just did was you kind of helped us understand the value, or you argued for the value of letting go of your expectations of others. But how do you do it in your own life? Like, how do you make that? He agrees. It sounds like a great idea. He wants to do that. But how do you do it? It's so hard to do. Is there something in your own life that kind of empowers you to do that? A certain way you look at things, or some mantra you go back to? Or
well, I mean, that's the mantra traded in expectations for appreciations. I write out appreciations whenever I try, especially when you're dealing with like a spouse. Now, sometimes there's some kids, you have certain expectations, and you want your kids to,
that's your
have
role.
Some parameters in their life. So there's certain like things with dependence. But even with children, like, you definitely can't, and of course within a marriage or within a business relationship, there's expectations. If I show up late every day for work, there has to be some guidelines and some basic rules of the marriage, of the business, of the family. So of course there's certain parameters, but at a certain point, to the degree that I try to control other people, we take our control issues into relationships. And I tell you, nagging never works. It's like the worst thing. And it just sets you up to have a miserable time. And sometimes I think, well, my spouse, okay, I won't nag them, but my kids, I'll nag them. They need it. They don't need it. Matter of fact, oftentimes the kids can self-regulate. Kids very often, I know this just from homeschool parents and stuff like that. They'll say, you know what, my kids, they don't want to play video games all day. They just be like, I want to spend some more time outside. Because they're smart. They'll self-regulate too. We tend to think we have to control everything. We can't even control our own. You want to control something? Control your senses. Stop trying to control everybody else.
There you go.
All right. Hope that was useful. I'm sure
it was.
Look who's next.
Oh, she's coming to the picnic.
Krishna Drew.
Yeah.
She's famous on Wisdom of the Sages. You get to meet Krishna Drew in person.
Saintly character.
Krishna Drew, a daily Zoomer via email. She said, all glories to your services. I can't imagine my life without Watts.
Watts.
That's
Wisdom
us.
of the Sages.
That's the acronym for Wisdom of the Sages. Very transformative. Discussing with a friend, humiliation can be a breakthrough, from episode 459. Let the false self die. My friend asked...
That was the title of episode 459.
Okay, let the false self die. My friend asked, how would you connect humiliation from this episode to Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 36? Here's the verse. Your enemies will defame you and humiliate you with unkind words, disparaging your might. Alas, what could be more painful than that? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, oh, you don't want to be humiliated. You should fight in this battle. It was one of the reasons Krishna gave Arjuna to fight, was you don't want to be humiliated. So we were glorifying humiliation, and Krishna's saying, no, don't be humiliated. It's not good for you. What's your answer to that, Kaustubha? She says, I'm not qualified to answer. How would you connect the two?
Okay.
Good question, huh?
It's a good question, and it speaks to a larger principle, and that is that when we look at when we look at Shastra, what to in Shastra meaning these sacred texts, what to speak of within different books, even within the same book, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna on different levels, right? Everyone's on a different level, and the instruction that you give to one person might not be the same instruction that you give to another person, or the instruction you give to a person at one point in time may be different at another point in time, according to where they are at, according to whatever they need to make that next step, right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, we see in the second chapter, Krishna's seeing that if Arjuna were to give up his duty was to protect the innocent, right, as a warrior. And there was value in that, not only for those that he was protecting, but for himself. It was a way for him to engage his passionate nature. He had the nature of a warrior, and it was a way to engage that in service. And when you engage your nature in service with knowledge, meaning with detachment, meaning I'm not doing it to gain something for myself, but I'm doing it purely out of service, that's called yoga. And if you do that regularly, it has a very powerful, transformative effect on the mind, right? We call that yoga. And through that, one can achieve self-realization, where their mind no longer is interfering with their perception of their own true spiritual nature. But that's like, in one sense, that's a beginner's instruction, right? Duty. Do your duty. Perform your duty. And he saw that Arjuna was inclined, at that point in time, he was inclined, I want to be a yogi. And in my superficial understanding of what it means to be a yogi is that you wander off into the forest. You give up your duties, right? Because living and working in this world, that's not yoga. Being involved in social roles and responsibilities, actually, that's what the yogis leave behind. They wander off to find seclusion. But Krishna recognized that if Arjuna, with his passionate nature and all that he had been through, at this point in his life, if he were to wander off into the forest and try to practice that kind of yoga, that even externally he might look like a yogi sitting out there all alone in the forest, sitting in his lotus position, in his meditative pose, but internally, right, he'd be dealing with the same mind, a mind that was too agitated by the world, a mind that rather than being able to sit peacefully needed to be engaged. It needed to be positively engaged. So in order to encourage him not to take the wrong path and to take the path that was appropriate for him, he appealed to him on the level of the ego, right? All his appeals won't be on the level of the ego.
Right.
But in this case, he said, well, if he can't even take the first step, I need to appeal to him on the level, do your duty. Because, you see, being dutiful is the first step in yoga. It's the first step.
This is a great answer. I wasn't expecting this answer. This is a great answer. I never thought of these things.
Well,
Thank God you're in my life.
Well, thank you, Raghu. Thank you for being in my life, and thank you for appreciating my answer. It encourages me. But here's a slogan for you that duty is the first step in mastering the mind, right? Duty is the first, because the mind is telling us, you know what, you don't need to do that right now. Wouldn't you rather be doing this? And you say, no, it's my duty. For Arjuna, it's my duty to protect the innocent, and I have to fight this battle to do that. For a mother, is, hey, I feel like going out and partying with the girls tonight, but it's my duty to take care of my child. As a mother, that's my dharma, that's my duty. I have to do my duty. So even though one's not like a super advanced detached yogi, that's the first step in controlling the mind. The mind used to tell me to run off and party with the girls, and now I say, mind, I don't listen to you anymore. I do what I know is right. And so that's the first step in yoga. So when Krishna tells Arjuna, he's saying, Arjuna, he's just trying to get him to engage in his duty. And if he had to peel on the level of the ego, he's going to do that. So he says, you think that all these warriors are going to think you're a great yogi if you just walk off the battlefield? Like, oh, we get it, he's a great yogi. No, that's not what they're going to think. Right? They're going to think that you're chicken. Right? and they're just going to be making fun of you, and you're going to be humiliated. And isn't it painful to be humiliated? Right. So that was an instruction you give to someone who's not deeply advanced at that point, who's at least not thinking in that way. But even just a little bit further down in that chapter, we're going to hear about, Krishna is going to begin to describe the person who's got deep wisdom, the Stita Dir Muni, the stage of steady mind.
Stita D.
Yeah, and Arjuna's like, tell me the qualities of this person. So now he's coming to a higher level of inquiry, and he's going to get a higher. The beginning, Arjuna's like, I'm throwing down my bow. I'm not going to fight. Arjuna's like, hey, if you walk off the battlefield, they're going to think you're chicken, and that's going to hurt, right? But then he comes, tell me about the qualities of the wise person. Okay, then he upgrades the instruction, right? Now he's going to give a more nuanced, a more deep instruction, and he begins to describe that the wise person, whether it's hot or cold, whether they're being honored or dishonored, right? They remain equipoised. Right, whether they're being honored. So in the beginning of the chapter, he's saying, if you get dishonored, it isn't going to be painful. If that's what you need to do the right thing and to take your first step in yoga, he's going to appeal on the level of the ego. But now you're inquiring beyond the level of the ego. Okay, well, let me tell you what a wise person doesn't even care about humiliation, external, those kind of things. Whether people are honoring them, whether people are dishonoring them, they can see them the same. They can feel no animosity towards them. Arjuna's in this moment is not on that level, but now he's giving him a higher instruction to aspire for.
We got to add that to the Sanskrit glossary goodie.
What's that?
Stita D Muni, Sage of Steady Mind.
Sage of Steady Mind.
We need a whole booklet of Sanskrit
glossary.
Sanskrit glossary goodies.
It's called a glossary.
We call it a glossary.
My what do you
have
call
a yogic glossary of great Sanskrit phrases.
Yeah. We could do that.
Of goodiness.
Okay, so I hope that's helpful, Krishna Jew, and we can talk more about it tomorrow at the picnic if you like.
This is what we do at the picnic. We just talk
about these things.
Glossaries.
Right? Yeah. Now we got time for one more. We got time for one more question for you. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
This one's coming from Joe Vaughn from the UK.
Joe Vaughn.
He says, "My name is Joe Vaughn. I'm a fairly new listener from across the pond."
Across the pond.
From across the pond, mate.
Across the pond, eh? In the boat.
Bruv.
In the Piccadilly Fair.
What are you talking about? He says, I'm a fairly new listener from across the pond and just wanted to say that the show is awesome and even better live. Come on. Oh, you got your come on. You used to say that all the time back when we were Super Soul Sacred Son. Come on.
Come on. I screamed a lot more.
Maybe you did. He
says, I think I've mellowed out.
Sometimes I think so. Sometimes I don't. But he says, perhaps you get this question all the time, so forgive me. But I have the idea of going to India for the first time for a while now. And I'm planning to go once things open up a little bit more between India and the UK to stay at an ashram and perhaps enroll in a monastic life as both of you co-hosts did. So my question is, do you guys have any suggestions for places to visit, stay, that you have had good experiences with, have heard good things about? Love you guys. Hope to come on pilgrimage with you one day, and I hope I'll show my face on Zoom with you one day of these days coming. I'm sorry. And he says, and I hope I'll show my face on Zoom with you one day of these days. One of these days.
One day of these days of the day.
If I'm up early enough to have a shower beforehand with my 10 a.m. waking. Right. Early 20s slacker. Watch Wisdom of the Sages for my drooling pillow vibe that I'm taking a break free from. Okay. Thank you, Joe. Raghu, help Joe out. He wants to go to India. He wants to live he wants to get some monastic training. Can you help him?
Well, that's a great desire, I think. India's a great place. I will say.
Sounds like you're about to say, don't do it.
Never do. Well,
it's a great desire.
Here's the deal. I mean, we were lucky. We were fortunate, and sometimes people aren't fortunate, because I know a lot of people go to India and they come back like, I'll never go to India again, and they don't get a taste from India. Even like Mallory, she was just, Mallory's a Zoomer, and she went to India with me, and there's a way to go on pilgrimage. It's not random. It's not wandering. It's not backpacking. It's not tourism. It's completely different. You get something out of tourism. We know that. We get something out of backpacking around. But as a pilgrim, and when the consciousness kept as a pilgrim, it's very special. But here's like a classic example. Mallory was on pilgrimage with me, and she had such a great time. And she was like, and she was in, I think, a transition or something in her life, and she just goes, "I'm just going to stay in Vrindavan. I'm having such a great day. We've been here for 3 days. The trip is ending in 3 days. I just want to stay." And my answer was, "You can't stay." She said, "What do you mean I can't stay?" I was like, "Seriously, don't stay. You had a good time. Go home and leave that desire in your heart. Like, I want to come back to Vrindavan." But she was like very, very like eager. "No, I really want to stay." Now, at the time, what she didn't realize was everything in her experience to some point was like carefully curated by me. Why?
Right.
Because that's what I do. I'm not good at many things. You can ask people that know me. You can ask Kaustubha and Mara. I'm not good at most things. But because I love pilgrimage so much, and because I threw myself in the hands of people and teachers who love pilgrimages and have Dham gurus, like gurus of holy places, who like sort of trained me how to enter those places, then it's sort of like now I feel qualified to lead people to those places. I wouldn't do it otherwise, because you're leading people into sacred places where they can make lots of offenses, and the leader takes all the karma for that. And so I said, listen, and because she was so persistent and her desire was so strong, part of me was seeing that also as also a divine sign as well. This person has a strong eagerness, and whenever there's a strong eagerness, I have to back off. But at the same sense, because as a teacher, as especially in holy places, you're almost like a shepherd or like a parent in one sense, or an older brother in one sense. I said, okay, if you do, this is such a sacred place. You can experience great ecstasy, but it can wipe you out as well. And let me place you in the hands of someone who can take care of you. And so, because Vrindavan, especially, these places are like spiritual vortexes. They're not ordinary. And just like you can surf a big wave, you ever see those big wave surfers like Mavericks or like Pipeline?
It's like in there with like a
towed in with a jet ski. It's like, how are they doing this? Yeah, I watch that like you're in awe. Part of me is in awe, and part of me thinking, are you insane? Why? But whatever. If you could imagine what that joy is surfing big waves, there must be an ecstasy that happens. But there's also, if they trip up, and that happens too, they trip up, they catch an edge, whatever it is, and there's wipeout. That's like the scariest thing ever. And these holy places, it's like you're playing, it's different than me and Kaustubha are playing poker with pennies. It's another thing if you're in Vegas and you got a $500 chip, $2,000 chips, etc. You're playing with bigger chips in the holy places, and you have exponentially more time to make advancement. You have exponentially more times to trip up. Bring your bad qualities into those places and just blow it. And I've seen that happen with people. I've seen them get like in wipeout in holy places. So I think guides are important. And this isn't a sales pitch, but this is what I love to do. There's other people who take people on pilgrimages, but that's why I love doing it, because I love experiencing it. I love giving it to others. When I was 22, when I first came on pilgrimage, I said, someday I want to do this for other people because it's so special. This is, I can honestly say it's not a sales pitch, but if you're interested, my website is raghunath.yoga. But I say that because you need to gently walk into those places and be led into those places instead of barging into those places. And I think that just makes sense, because these are sensitive places. We want to go in with an open heart, and we want to be led. We want to have the right consciousness on our deck. It's one to say, okay, here is this temple. Now what? What do you do? Okay, bow. Right. I love. Go to the altar and say, "I love you. Love me back." How do you react? So that's what a Dham guru does. They show you holy places, how to behave, how to think. What do you do on your downtime? What do you do in kirtan? What do you do in this and that? And I want that. I wanted that. I didn't want to just backpack around like lost.
Yeah. And another thing is in all these places, they attract holy people and sincere people, but they also attract people that are just looking to like confuse you or try to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's like
it's super confusing. It's super confusing.
There's all kind of people
that
that
a
are
wrong
just,
experience.
They know it's exact place to go to find some naive person that if I put on some spiritual, aura, they're gonna take me as some kind of guru or something like that.
I know we've met that in India as well.
Yeah.
I think the best thing to do if you're gonna go on your own and not with a pilgrimage leader, then you have to. I would listen to Wisdom of the Sages on a regular basis to fortify you to go, because that's what the Bhakti is not just, or study sacred literature, because otherwise it's very easy to get confused. I'm not even saying people are nefarious, like Kaustubha was saying there are nefarious people. I'm saying people are just, they themselves are lost. And generally when people come from the West, we think, well, this guy's got a robe on. This guy's got dreadlocks. This guy's got a beard. He must be a guru. I mean, we do that in America. This guy can do a scorpion handstand. This guy can drop back from a handstand to chaturanga. He must be a guru. Let's see what his quote is on Instagram. They do it in India too. You go to India and this guy looks holy. He's got sacred clay on his forehead. He must be really spiritually connected. Maybe not. There's ways to actually verify this. That's why training ourselves, training the intelligence and discernment assists us to move forward on spiritual path. It's not just like a feeling of he feels spiritual or she feels spiritual. She did that, they said these words. It's finding out. It's finding out it's separating the truth from the nonsense. And that's what educating yourself does. How's that?
It's fantastic, Raghunath.
Thanks, everybody.
We're 5 minutes over, so we
okay. Well, we'll see you for the picnic, Boston people. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Oh, and we got Tuka around tomorrow.
Oh, we got Tuka tomorrow. You're in for a great treat tomorrow at 8 a.m. Interview with my good friend Tukaram Prabhu, who is like a walking encyclopedia on all topics, but especially sacred literature. I've seen him go head to head with the Shankaracharya of Uttarakhand.
Really?
Yes. It's amazing. He's a great pundit. If you got great questions, maybe you could write them in for Tuka. You put Tuka. He's a real philosophical pundit, master of the Bhagavad Gita. This guy too, but he's just a beautiful person. So thanks to everybody for joining us. If you still want to go to that picnic, it's Wisdom of the Sages 108. Write picnic in the subject line. And if you like what we're doing,
down to the picnic.
Huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying, I'm looking at Parmananda. I'm saying, hey, you should come down to the picnic.
He's not coming?
I don't know. You coming, Parmananda? Give us a thumbs up. Maybe. Hey, you come on, man. Come on down.
Yeah, we want to see all you guys.
He's
Laura Marco is trapped down under. She wants to come, but they won't let her leave Australia. So Bensinski G is coming. Vegan Trucker's coming.
Maybe Vegan
Dr.
Trucker
Louis is going to be there
on the way down.
That's it. Moxie the Maina is going to come down.
A lot of people coming.
A lot of people. They're just showing up.
You know what's another one of those initial things? FOMO. Do you know that one, Raghunath?
Fear of missing out. That's a great one. FOMO.
Yeah. So spread a little FOMO around here.
Bhakti Justin's saying YOLO. What's YOLO, Bhakti Justin?
I don't know.
You only live once, which is completely against our philosophy. Which is, you only live. That's what ours is. You only live. Jamie Step Jojo is going to be there probably. Oh, he's in the Boston area. I wonder if I can see this guy. He's sort of in the area. Anyway, thank you guys. We're a community-supported podcast. If you like what we're doing, go to wisdomofthesages.com. Wait, no, don't do that. Go to patreon.com/wisdomofthesages. If you want to get on our Sage page mailing list, go to wisdomofthesages.com. Sign up there. You'll get regular emails out, and we'll enter you into the lottery for arranged marriage. That can all happen every Tuesday. You don't even have to see who you're married. Look who's here. Sandy Clemmer is here. One of our Zoomers is here live. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And now we dance, which is going to be really awkward because I'm in a yoga studio, but I'm going to do it anyway.